Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an exquisite episode of Transformers Reviews as we look at the amazing, magnificent Sky Lynx. And all joking aside, I want to show you guys just kind of what he looks like with his launch platform. And addressing that, the fact that Sky Lynx's bottom half that later on forms as Puma mode, it was rather ingenious of Hasbro to reutilize it as a launch platform. Now, this is not something new. We've actually seen this sort of thing before with Astrotrain. I mean, this is a far better. And if you guys notice something a little bit different on Astrotrain, rest assured, we are going to come back to that, no doubt. You can see that here it actually has like treads, so much like Astrotrain, this is meant to evoke like a little bit of a crawler look, as I should say. Is that you see these are rather basically slanted forward. In a lot of promo shots, it's not like that. Well, whenever his shuttle mode is sitting right here, I kind of like to view that as these cannons are protecting that half of him prior to launch. And I don't think it truly fully dawned on me that this is not a cargo container like I was joking or being somewhat serious about. And the fact is that with the treads on the bottom of this, that actually turns this into some sort of crawler vehicle. And especially with these guns on the side that they give you, that's what forms its armament so that it's not undefended, although it looks like it could take a heck of a beating. And it makes so much sense that this could actually just be its own independent vehicle. Now, say that this thing was, going along here and they needed to evacuate some bots. So you just fold down the back ramp, and you can use about 2 of these guys depending upon, which ones you use. So you just plug them in there, and you just close the ramp back up. And there you go. He's safe and secured until the shuttle part can come along and pick him up. And just to give you guys a little bit of size comparison as to how big it is compared to someone like, say, Ratchet. So if we scoot him out here, hopefully that gives you a little bit better idea of scale. So guys, here we're going to take a look at the other fun half of him, and that is obviously the shuttle mode. Now, if you can see, the cargo bay is open. Coming off of Siege into Earthrise, you would figure he would have more ports on his shuttle mode, which really is just this one in the cargo bay, at least in this mode. And so, I mean, you can use that for a plethora of things. So if you wanted to have a gun sticking out of the top of it, you could do that. Or say that you wanted to have it look like it was doing more scientific research, you can also do that as well. As Darth Tyrannus might say, I've been looking forward to this. And indeed I have. I said we'd come back to Astrotrain. And this is him without his custom piece, which you saw him with earlier, which, basically fills that in and fixes all the problems with it. But this really just shows exactly what I was talking about in his review, that Hasbro could have done a perfect shuttle mode if they wanted to. They just simply chose not to. Okay? Not that I care as much anymore, like I said. And as you saw earlier, now that I have this piece, fixes it, it's great, it's fine. But I just wanted to show you guys how he stacks up to the only other shuttle that we actually have gotten so far in the line. And you know what? I am very pleased with how well and how superior that he is turning out to be. Now, one of the things that I think a lot of people that had like toy shuttles back in the day, whenever these type of shuttles were still being flown around by NASA, is the fact that they usually had the branding on them, which is, excellent, and that's sort of a surprise. It has it on both sides, much like his name, Magnificence, which of course he would have. But other than that, guys, I just really like his shuttle mode. It looks great. And so anyway, so far, both halves of him are looking good. Okay, guys, so when you slap those halves together, you actually get what he looked like for the most part in, how he was animated flying around with his whole complete self. Well, I'll say this, that cartoon accuracy is not always the best thing, okay? I'm going to admit it here and now. Does it look terrible? No, I'm not as crazy about it. But there is something I do want to address with this, is that you have to connect it correctly in order for it to be connected on the back end and the front end. It takes a little bit of working to figure it out. And I don't know if there's any Star Trek fans in the house, but Sky Lynx actually can make a somewhat interesting approximation of a Klingon Bird of Prey. So just a little bit of an interesting side note if you are a Trekkie. However, another thing that he does really good is a strong approximation of his bird mode. Obviously, his original toy was capable of doing this. However, I'm not too big of a fan of it. Essentially, he's got like this bird body with like a dragon head and dragon neck. And it just doesn't quite look right because everything else is too anemic, like especially the legs. You know, they're like half as thick as his neck. And so it's not my favorite, but again, you know, I can't knock it too hard because it's accurate, but like I said earlier, that may not be necessarily the best thing. Now, here we are in his Lynx mode, and I bet you guys thought I had forgot about those small little battle masters that I had inside of his crawler mode earlier. Well, actually I was waiting till we got here to show you this, because if you see down here on his Lynx belly, here is the ramp. You just simply pull it down, and now his Power Master guys that he safely escorted off the planet can now disengage. You just fold the belly ramp back up, boom, and now he is free of all passengers. Now, as I was ragging on this Sky part of his mode, the Lynx mode is actually really good. Like, okay, it's a little silly with the double tails, but you know, whatever. I'll let it pass, at least he has them. And he does have a mouth. And I forgot to mention this on his Lynx mode, or his the Sky part of his mode, the bird mode, but the tongue does move in both beast modes up and down, so it's independent of the jaws on both the guys. And you can attach these massive blast effects, which these are just a reuse of Omega Supremes. It's the same 5-piece thing that, you know, busts apart with the 2 extra pieces. Only difference is that now they're orange, as you can see, instead of yellow and black. Now, if you want to see a breakdown of this, literally, go to the Omega Supreme video and I talk all about it. I don't really feel there's a need to reiterate it in Sky Lynx's video. Other than to just show off, it's kind of interesting whenever you see him just shooting this giant flame from his Lynx mouth, which I don't know if we ever saw that. The Lynx mode is fantastic. I really like it. But let's go ahead and move on to probably the form that he is most magnificent in. So what was it that Willem Dafoe's character said in John Carter? You are beautiful yet ugly. He's a combination, like we said, of a lynx, a dragon, and a bird. So he's a freakosaurus in that respect. But when it all comes together, oh my goodness, look at it. It is so amazing. Dang, this thing is just awesome. And especially when you start pulling in other figures, like, look at how small a leader class figure like Astrotrain is. I mean, not to mention, then, you know, even when you put 2 guys like this, tip to tip, they don't even, you know, reach from the tip of his nose to his tail. I mean, this guy is just amazingly fun and huge, much like Jetfire was. And, you know, being these commander size class figures, they're able to introduce that accuracy of scale that we've been missing in Transformers almost since the inception of the brand, and now they're just killing it. And so, you know, they've taken a slight little bit of liberty, like we saw with the Lynx crawler mode, you know, all that stuff, but that's a good thing. That's an improvement on the original. And, you know, like, I never had the original Sky Lynx, so for me, this is like my first interaction with him being probably like he should be. And despite how elegant he is of a figure, that if you have him in a display like this, where you've got all your smaller guys in the foreground, you know, he can definitely serve that role of the big, powerful character that can come in and be, you know, even more powerful than the toughest bruiser. And just because of his sheer size and power that he has. I mean, Sky Lynx was able to take on the entire group of Predacons. One dude was able to take on probably the most vicious combiner all by himself, and you have that guy as your backup. That's awesome. And he is just translating it in every way with no matter who you display him with. And that is just awesome. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this look at none other than Earthrise Sky Lynx. And until next time, guys, we'll see you in another review.
Autobots, Captain Fairborn. Final boarding call for Autobot City.